Hello, everyone. We are doing another meeting about tabular design for version 14.2. Okay, what are we looking at today?
So the first thing is looking at these simple functions to get and set keys and types. And so these are examples for
Why
you
haven't
to.
we looked at these before?
We have. This is some sort of quick introduction to the next section about types. We have looked at this. It's just a quick recap. So these are
Okay,
various ways in which we can construct. So now the second argument that you suggested works great to add the keys.
okay,
Yep,
okay.
that's
With
very
the
nice.
alternative being, by the way, is this design is not really making it for me.
Yeah, I don't know why the slash is there, but
Yeah,
I really
do we
think we
have
should
some
have
different
types in all
design?
of them.
What? It's not a slash, right? It's supposed to be a little triangle. That's
Yeah, but it
exactly
doesn't. It
what.
doesn't. It isn't what I had in mind. So I think it should be smaller, and that it should be lighter gray, and so on. Do we have some different design here?
Tim worked on this. I don't think he's here. I'm here. I saw this, and this is roughly what you said, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
but
look
not
quite
what I
right.
actually wanted in terms of
Yeah,
execution.
yeah, right.
Right. It needs to be just a light little thing. It needs to be a little corner there. I think it should not have a line there. I think maybe it should have a different gray level or something, and that thing just lightly on top of it.
Well, if you make it much smaller, it's not really comprehensible.
It just needs to be just try it. It's going to be okay. It just needs to be something that you look. It just looks terrible with the line not joining up in the end. There shouldn't be a line there. Maybe Jeremy can try and just mock something up quickly.
Yeah, let me mail you something, Stephen. I've got
Okay.
some.
Okay. And to the question of about putting types for everything, no, I do not think we want to do that. I just think most of the time it's just not going to be relevant. And when it's a well-defined type that's just an expression type, it is what we expect. It's only when the thing is a string but you don't know it type thing. Did you send the mail, by the way?
Yeah, you should have it.
But I still think we should at least have a tooltip.
Well, that I agree with. I don't disagree with that. Okay, where's your design, Jeremy?
These alternates with the kind of angled quote, it's the line touches, possible different expression icon.
Why are we doing an expression icon? I didn't think we were doing that. We removed that. But we removed that. We're not doing that.
No.
If it's an expression, we're
No,
not doing it. What's that?
No, we agreed that expression needs to be.
No, we didn't. No, we
It's
didn't.
inert expression.
What's that?
That's why. It's inert expression.
Oh, inert expression.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's different. Okay, I think. I kind of like the angled one, but I still think we should lighten the bar here, as opposed to raise the bar, as people sometimes do. Okay, so with the angled idea,
The
I wonder
E
how we
fits
would
with the angle, but not that f of x. You
No,
don't
the f
have
of
much
x
room there.
the f of x doesn't make sense because the thing we're trying to communicate is that it's an inert expression. The fact that it's an expression is not what we're communicating.
Okay.
It's the inertness that we're communicating.
All right.
So I have to say, I would have thought a little bit of a tiny dash of light, very light blue would potentially communicate the freezing of it. Either that or what coloration are we using for inert? Is this an active expression? What would happen if I pulled it out? Would I get something inactive, or what would I get?
Do we even have active expressions, or aren't they all inert?
I think this is referring to expressions. The inert is it's just the
Well,
name.
it's right
It's
because the
expression.
data structure is inert expression.
Right.
Okay, so let's not put an annotation there. I don't think we need it. Why would we need it?
Because I think that if you have something that should be all numbers and the first 10,000s of numbers, and then you have A in the 10,001 place, there's no way to eyeball it without that. It will look like numbers, but then there's one element that is broken.
Okay, but that's a special case. I think then that we should indicate that in some way, not muddy up the whole
But
thing.
the
The other
point.
use
No,
case is for it
that's
to
what
be
we
like
need
an
to do.
input form.
What's
right?
that?
The other case is when it's like an input form of some other expression that doesn't have a type that makes sense here.
Sorry, which other case?
For when we'd want to mark something as an inert expression.
Yeah, but I don't think, I mean, look, you can see it's true, it's false. I take Carlo's point that if there's something 10,000 lines down that you can't see, so what you have is not what you thought you had, and instead it isn't really numbers, it's something else. Am I making sense?
But in a sense, given that inert expression is kind of our catch-all type, then I think having something that indicates that we failed to coerce it to something narrower is very useful. Just
Well, but
as
true is a generic expression, isn't it?
no, true is Boolean.
I see. All right, okay. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think the labels of those columns and those alternates are misleading. It looks like that expr is actually a Boolean column, but I'm not sure who put that together.
Right, but okay, but so the question here is, when there's a quote and there's an expression, an inert expression, what do we want to do in the dog ear, so to speak, to indicate the inert expression, right? So we need iconography for the inert expression. If that's the string iconography, which I think is reasonable, although I think it could be a bit lighter than that, then what is the inert expression iconography?
And
Who has an idea
what,
about
what,
that?
what we decided last time, which is what I suggested, was a lowercase e, because we use e as a generic expression in documentation and whatever.
I don't think that's terrible. I don't think that's terrible. And we could even tip it a bit. I'm thinking that, or maybe an open bracket, close bracket. Can we see some examples of that, please, with tipping and so on? And then let's come back to that. Okay, one or the other of those. Now, in terms of the tooltips, do we not have those tooltips? Do we have tooltips or do we not have tooltips?
Not yet, I think.
Okay, so we need the tooltips, I think.
Yep.
That's cool. That selection is cool. What can I do with that selection? Nothing.
I don't think you can do anything at this point.
Selection? I'm sorry. That.
The selection from the top thing, the down arrow that I'm getting in as my cursor. There.
Yeah, I don't think you can do anything with that.
Okay, all right, fine. Okay, but
It's
so
inherited
let's have a
from
tooltip.
table
Okay, guys, let's have a tooltip. What's it going to say?
Well, I think it should give the actual type, right? Because just because it's an integer doesn't tell you whether it's, which of the 8
Okay,
integer
so what
types
should
it
it
is.
say? Should it say integer, quotes, integer 64 column or something?
Should it have the full name? We
Oh yes,
might have
because the name
dot
might be
at
an
some point.
extended key type thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it should be, why not do the following? Why not say, well, what would be I mean, would we say something like, well, what would an extended key be? An extended key would be something, would we indicate the extended key as a, x greater than col3 colon integer 64 or something? Is that what we do? Is that what we do, guys?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. We might want some formatting of that. I mean, the only question is whether this should be more computable. Do you understand what I'm asking? Is there a syntax for extended key, or is it just extended key? Is there some kind of iconography that we can key on, so to speak, to represent this?
We now have no syntax for
operator form,
extended
if that's what you're asking.
There's no operator form, right? Okay. Well, then I think it should be this, with that thing being some kind of Guillaume, breadcrumb trail type thing. Okay. Let's move on.
Okay.
Column keys, element type, column 1.
So that's a way of specifying the keys and then say, and I want to change the type of one of them.
And why is it called element type? Isn't it a column type?
Well, this is the distinction. We've the element type refers to the types of each element in the column, as opposed to sort of a compiler type for a tabular column would be tabular type specifier of tabular column, and then the element type, of the element type.
I'm confused.
So we're trying
Like
to
the column.
The column is a vector, so you would need like a list of integers as a
I
type.
see. Okay.
But you wanted just one integer.
But actually column types is a key there to set it is reported. I don't know if it's already in that build, but I put it in today.
Yeah, in the previous comment, I mean, it's written that we want to support column types there too.
Yeah.
Okay, where column types could say column types arrow integer, col1 arrow integer 8 or whatever, and that would mean the whole column is integer 8.
Yeah.
The elements of the.
So
yeah.
I don't understand why this is any different. I don't understand why we're doing this. I mean, it seems to me.
The reason we're doing that is that in general, those things like element type, nullable, etc., those are properties, like they're singular, they're properties of the column.
I understand, but why isn't this where the properties of the column go?
Because
Well, it's actually a property of each element in the column.
I know that, but we can't have both names, both, we can't have both column types and element type. We can't have both options. And I think column types is the right name.
Yeah, but if you look at the full form of the thing, basically you have column properties, and then each column has an association, and element type is the key in there. If you look at it like that, then it makes sense. When you ask for it, it's the element type. But of course, as a setter, column keys makes more sense because you often want to set more than, column types, because you want to set more than one.
What is column properties doing? Why do we have that?
Okay. It's the internal structure of the tabular schema object. There are properties, there are nobody.
Okay, so why are we supporting it at top level here?
Well,
why do we have
it's going to be changed by column types. It's written in the previous sentence.
Okay, fine. So this is wrong. So this should be column types.
Yeah, it just
and then we're done. Okay, that's fine.
What works now.
Okay, terrific.
So then extracting, we have column keys which works.
I like it.
And then we are suggesting
with a selector. I like it.
Exactly. We will discuss the selector in a moment. Then we are suggesting a column types, which is the parallel operation to extract the column types. And again, it's the name column types. Now, the question here is whether the selector can be different. So Rob proposes that we have different selectors to make both functions more powerful. So can you explain that, Rob?
Yeah. So like in the compiler, we have classes of types like integers, which means basically all the integer types. And it would be very difficult to do that with a selector by that, but we could have, something like column keys, column types of tab, comma, integers, and it would select all those classes in the compiler class integers, which would be integer 8, integer 16, so on and so forth. We could also do simple string pattern matching on the types.
I don't understand. This thing returns a flat list. So if you say you have a tabular,
it doesn't return a flat list. It returns an association with the keys and the types.
That wasn't okay.
So what returns keys and types? The column types.
Column types does. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Column keys returns the keys of that association, and column types returns the association with the values in the association being
types.
Yeah.
Right. The only case it returns a flat list is if you have no keys whatsoever, and then you just get a list of the types, which is not very useful, but it's consistent.
Sorry, if you don't have what?
If you have no keys at all. So the just above, Jose shows an anonymous case where column keys returns none.
Why isn't it returning a list of missing, not available or something?
Well, somebody could have those as column names.
Yeah, we wanted something that is very different.
Fine.
For the anonymous guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is the selector for column keys It's pretty obvious. Column types has to return an association of column arrow value.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Which matches with the input we were seeing before. So that's great.
Yeah. Although what happens if there are no keys but there are types?
Then we return a list, and it's of it's limited use. The filter in that case is not useful. Weird. It's a weird case, yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. So now what are you proposing for the filter?
Well, remember a few weeks ago, you proposed in column keys having this type specifier case as a thing that would work on the types. What I'm proposing for that second argument of column types is exactly what I'd put in the type specifier as a prototype implementation before, that allowed, specifying simple string patterns, classes of
I'm
type.
sorry, be specific. The type specifier has a very well-defined syntax, right?
Yes.
Okay, but you're not proposing putting some kind of pattern string inside the type specifier, are you? You're not. What are you proposing? If I say column keys of a tabular, and then I say something like foo star, are you proposing that works?
Yeah.
Okay. By doing what? By saying if there's a string in the second argument, it's treated as a string pattern.
If the type is a string, it's treated as a string pattern. Yeah.
Okay. But now what
another
if
thing.
Wait. I'm not really thrilled about this. I mean, so that's a string pattern. If I say something like
sorry, Steven, this is column types, right? We are discussing column types just to avoid confusion. You wrote column keys.
Why isn't it column keys as well? I just want the keys that match foo star.
Yeah, that's the key name, but has nothing to do with type at this point. Yeah.
Yes.
So foo star is the key name. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And I mean,
sorry. So right now the selector of column keys works in a different way. So we may change it. That's why we're bringing up this discussion. Yeah. Right now it takes those associations that you see.
I need to get some kind of scope of this meeting because I have another meeting coming up in 15 minutes. So can we just get some scope of what we're trying to achieve here? So we got this column keys discussion. What else
we want to wrap up, and this is absolutely important to just wrap this first section.
Yes.
If we have time, we would like to go to the second section.
Okay. So is there any new design, or is this merely ratifying design that we think is basically finished?
I think that the first section is basically ratifying things that we all are, we think is finished.
Column types is new design.
Column type is new, but it's very, very close.
The second section, is there a substantial new material or not?
So pivoting, you have seen.
The last section is more new, I think. But...
The which section?
Well, data connection object we never really properly discussed.
Okay. So let's try and really race through this. Okay? Can we please race through this? I don't think having special selectors for column types is our most important issue.
I think it is.
Okay.
I think.
Then explain what you're proposing.
The misselector. I think that we need a way to get them and set them.
Yeah, but selector is probably not the most.
Setting is not even. We haven't even shown anything about setting here.
It's the next section.
It's the next section. It's cast types.
Yes. So for this part, I think we are well prepared with renaming columns and cast columns.
Yeah.
Those look fine to me. We discussed them before. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
But there is one thing that it's out here, which is like, do we want to let people cast columns by saying just integer instead of saying integer 64? This is one thing that I think is kind of important.
I think we should default. If it says integer, we should default to something. I don't think that we're going to be so down to the metal that we should be, worrying about whether we default to integer 8 or something else. And I think we should just default to integer 64.
Yeah, so do I, but there is no precedent for that in the compiler. You always have to be precise. So,
well, maybe we should make a precedent for the compiler.
Yeah, I think so too. Also because, like, for example, in databases, we don't make a difference between 64, 32, or 128. Like, because some platforms even support big int.
Well, I think that right. So then I would say integer both here and in the compiler should currently default to 64. Maybe sometime in the future it will default to 128. maybe
Yeah,
somebody
well,
but,
I mean,
yeah.
an alternative is at least, is somebody specifies integer, we determine which type it fits, 64 or
I know. That is a possibility. That is a possibility. What do you favor?
Well, I mean, I think that rather than fit, the most interesting thing would be, you figure out what platform you're on or what backend you're using, and then use the most appropriate integer for that.
That's
so
fine, and it will normally be integer 64. Because remember, we can do arithmetic in that column, and it might blow out of integer 8. So let's not use that.
I wasn't suggesting compression.
Right, so then it is platform dependent, but a typical default on a computer, not with a database backend and so on, will be integer 64 if you just say integer. Agreed?
Yeah, unless it's like an old Raspberry Pi, then maybe it can be 32.
So that's exactly what I have for machine integer right now, but
well, I don't think this is that important. I mean, I think this is a default that we might as well right. Okay, so with respect to column types, the question is whether this is a type selector selecting columns by types as opposed to the column keys where it is a name selector, right?
No, in column keys, it's a full function that takes the whole spec. So it can select both on type and name at the same time.
So that's the current implementation in column keys. A possibility would be to have something that focuses only
wait a
on
second. So you're saying what is the function given in the case of column keys?
Scroll up a bit and you will see. It's a function that receives those associations effectively, and then it can operate on the key name and the type as well.
Okay, so column types can receive the same thing.
Yeah,
Rob is proposing that we do something else for column types.
Well, what is he proposing?
But there's like a simpler case, because in column keys, the second argument, you could just give strings. Right, or a string that's a string match queue.
Are you suggesting in column keys that you can give a string pattern?
No. I mean, we went back and forth on that.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, so the only thing you can give is a function that references column key.
Yes, or the type,
or element type, or nullable, or whatever other thing you put in there.
Okay. Well, I don't understand. If nullable isn't here, how can you key into it?
Yes, that's a previous sentence saying that this can be extended to contain other things.
All right, fine. So then what's the question for column types? Why can't it do the same thing?
Well, my argument is column types is much more specific on the types, which is one of the properties. So we should have it only work on that particular property, namely the type.
Why? I mean, I don't understand. If I want to know the types of the foo columns, why can't I just do that matching on the foo columns? I don't understand why we want it any different.
If you like, we can have the same selector, but I think it's less, it's less convenient for people to use to get information about types.
As a matter of fact, one thing that we could do right now is to say that column types only has one argument, and then you use column keys appended to it to select what keys you want to see in that particular.
Yeah, that's kind of what Jose put down below.
Yeah, and then when we know better, we can decide what we put in column types, and we just say it has one argument right now. I don't think it's a big deal. If we decide now.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because the operation of like selecting something specific is something you can already do by applying column keys after it.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I lost something there. It does seem to me useful to be able to say column types and then to have something where you specify a type here or a pattern for a type. Am I making sense?
Or I say like a class of types, like integers, which is a class of types in the compiler.
Okay, that's fine. And then that's unambiguous because it's not, I mean, it's just a string, right?
Right. Yep.
So I think that's fine. So that's matching on the types here. That's a shorthand. I mean, I would argue that matching on the string name of the column is not crazy in column keys. Okay? So we can distinguish the pure string case from the case where you've got a function there. And I would say for column, I think it would be useful to have a string pattern there.
I also think it's like we want to encourage people having strings for the column keys because you're going to refer to them in transform columns with like slot the name of the column. That should be easy to type.
Yeah, right. So if they're strings, then they can refer to them with string patterns there. That's what I suggest. Objections?
No, we can document that as a special case. So especially when we have the column types where you have the string for the type, that's pretty consistent. So I like that.
Yeah, okay, fine. Moving on. Pivoting, let's pivot to pivoting.
Right. So we have looked at this before. So I think the key question here is what to do with summaries. So right now there is a string option called margins that adds the summaries. It's in the next section. But we don't feel it's the right name. So we wanted to check with you what's your opinion about the names.
Sorry, so what does this even mean? So there's those the
alls, yes, and then the next one has these all columns. Just doing summaries due to these margins goes to true.
I don't understand. Wait a minute. What does that mean again?
Well, look at the Titanic case. I think that's much simpler to understand. So that all column there means everybody in first class is the first row, everybody in second class is the second row, and everybody in third class is the third row, the 0.3.
So that's the combination of male and female.
Right, exactly. So
okay.
And then
well, can we use all as a key somewhere to represent that?
That's what this table is doing.
No, I understand that, but we specify if we are okay, if we want to select this column, how do we select this column? What's the name of that column?
Extended key all comma male.
Okay. By the way, is there a mouse over of that column header that gives you that extended key syntax? You know, I'm going to take back what I said before about what the mouse over should be. I really think it should say extended key. Otherwise, nobody's ever going to know how to type it.
Yep.
Okay.
But they're still not grouping together, though I'm not sure it's appropriate here.
You mean they still have a separator bar between the all and the male?
No, I mean that we said before that we wanted things like when there's, you see where it says Adele male, those that Adele can be spanning.
I see this thing.
Which was the case some time ago.
Penguins.
It went back to be separated.
But not below. Like the grouping only goes up.
Yeah.
Right. Well, whether those span, I think, is a luxury. I think there should be some appearance-ish option that specifies it, because sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't. But I consider it somewhat luxury. Now, the question here is whether, in the case where that's really all, whether it says all, whether we gray down the word all in any way or anything like that. But all seems to be the right thing to say there.
But is all there a string or an expression?
It's an expression.
So that doesn't work properly then with the in function. Like you can't say hash all. You have to say hash open square bracket all.
Yeah, but I mean you need both. Yeah. Oh, you mean not in the extended key? You mean in the Titanic case?
Yeah.
You have no choice but to use an extended key, which means it's the whole thing.
No, you don't need an extended key in the case above where there's only one grouping.
Yeah. Carlos talking about the Titanic case. But I think that using string, it's too much of a collision with possible column names. The symbol all is much safer here.
And Rob, could all be have a collision with the part language spec?
That's a good point.
Possibly, yeah. That's an interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but yes, it could be.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I was asking whether all could conflict with the part language spec. All.
I see.
Yeah, so somebody asked for column, you know, that pivot
Yeah, I get it.
table all, it would be
Well, maybe it should be a string.
problematic.
Maybe it should be a string.
I think it is a string in this implementation, but I don't remember.
I mean, this is very useful, but I think that if you are very unsure, we could also not document this.
Not document which?
Margins. This option.
I don't. Why is it called margins? What the hell is
No,
it doing?
I mean, the name is to, like, we put a possible suggestion for names like group summaries, summary aggregations. I mean, we need to find a better name.
Well, I mean, it's a display option, right?
It's actually a computation option.
It constructs a new tabular with that column. It's not just
I mean, it does some new computation that you wouldn't do otherwise, because it has to compute the thing for the whole group instead of the subgroups.
What?
I mean, you have
margins is the worst name I could imagine. I thought that was putting, blue frame.
Yeah, no, we agree. Yes, yeah, we all agree about that.
What is
but that was why it was already implemented with that syntax, and we just wanted that to work.
Okay, so just explain what this does now to me.
Look at the first table, pivot table Titanic. Yeah, you are disaggregating, the survival rate among the first class between female and male. Yeah, so you can say, at the end, for free, give me also the aggregated survival rate for the first class. And same thing for the first column, yeah? As for free, give me also the aggregated survival rate across all classes for female.
Okay.
So this is adding it's not really sum, yeah, because it depends on, like, here we're doing mean. So he's doing, let's do the operation also for the aggregated
so basically
groups.
It's an include blah, blah, blahs.
Yes,
exactly. It include aggregation, include summary, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a summary. It's, yeah, I mean,
aggregation or, yeah.
Well, how does it relate to aggregate columns?
Well, it's
is it the same operation as aggregate? What's that?
No, yeah. I mean, the point is here we are aggregating across sex and class.
No, I understand.
And the other one is aggregating across everything.
Okay.
So the answer to that, Stephen, is slightly technical, but suppose we have a list of groups, say 3 different things we're grouping on. Okay. Mm-hmm. To get the pivot table with the summaries, you actually do aggregate rows on those groups, but you also do subsets of that group for all possible subsets of those groups.
Okay.
So you do a bunch of different aggregations, and then we sort of join them vertically to make a nice table, and then pivot it to make the result.
How about include group aggregates? Are we using the term group anywhere?
One word that seems to be used sometimes for this is roll up.
No.
Yeah, group. I think group aggregates is okay.
Except, have we used the term group anywhere else?
No, but I'm proposing it below as a possible thing as well.
Okay. Well, so tentatively include group aggregates.
Okay.
Can I make a typesetting comment for Jason if he's here?
Is Jason here? Is Jason here? There's no point in making a comment if Jason isn't here.
Yeah, but I mean, even if he's not here,
is Jason here?
He's not.
Because there is a bug that I'm seeing on your screen.
Okay. All right.
Scroll down a bit.
Why is the double bar? Why is there a double bar there? Why is there a double bar underneath that heading?
That's another bug, possibly.
Yeah, another bug.
So look at the year.
Unrelated.
I don't know what that is. What's that doing?
Anyway, if you look at the year,
I don't understand what this is doing. Why am I able to resize the heading like that?
This might be silly, but do you just need to scroll up in the Penguins one?
Indeed, I do.
Okay.
That's a feature, not a bug.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Anyway,
although it's wiggling in a weird way, so it's not quite right. but it is a feature, not a bug. Okay, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, look at the year column. Now that the year column has the one below, the one
at
at
the
very
bug.
bottom,
It's a
not below.
date. It's a date, and it shouldn't have a space there.
That one is an old version that we copied there.
Fine. Okay.
No, but I didn't mean that one. I mean the one below. When you add to year, you add all, then the alignment goes all wonky. And my point is that the numbers
Carlo, that's an old one. I mean, the output wouldn't look like that,
Yeah,
we just copied that because
there's no
otherwise
bug
it didn't
now
work.
there.
Okay, let's look at what Jeremy has here. I prefer the square brackets, but they need to be longer in the tooth, so to speak, to not have any possibility of looking like quotes.
Yeah, and we're gonna have not a lot of control over rendering with those.
Why?
Yeah, they're vector and they get rasterized, or they get displayed with anti-aliasing. It's really tricky to get them to show up perfectly.
Well, is there any choice?
I think we can see how close we can get it. I mean,
Where are the brackets?
I think I'm gonna confuse the brackets with a double quote.
Yeah,
very easily.
It's not the worst thing in the world, though. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world if you do, because they're actually a very similar concept.
A string and a general expression?
Well, for these purposes, they're not really interpreted properly. I also think that the double quote probably has a little bit of structure in the double quote itself that probably shouldn't have.
From my perspective, the double quote and the little e that's on its side, tell me the info I'm looking for.
I don't like the little e because I think the little e, we never use that. I mean, we do use that in documentation. I'm not a fan of the little e. I mean, the question is, can we get a better rendering, like, really very long in the tooth, of whatever they are, the hooks of the brackets, to make that more obviously distinguished from the double quote.
Well,
or maybe a slightly different color.
Yeah, one idea I liked was your suggestion of a light blue to indicate the frozenness. Maybe the triangle could just be light blue. Nothing else.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that it should be. I mean, I'm not sure how frozen it is, whether that's really the point.
Yeah, well, yeah, once you pull them out, they do evaluate, so they're not completely
then they're not frozen.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if it's a double quotes in light gray and the brackets in light blue, that'll be differentiable.
That would be interesting. That's an interesting suggestion. Jeremy, I think we need a little bit more development of these, but I think we're going in the right direction here.
Okay.
Okay, anything else that we can cover right now?
About pivot? No, perhaps we can have a quick look at virtual keys.
I think this is a complicated discussion.
Okay, then let's look at data connection object in case that's a quick thing. Is it? What am I supposed to see here?
Yeah, basically that you can get data from a remote resource. Is Roger still here?
Where's Roger?
He was here, but
this morning, Roger basically said that he had kind of rubber stamped this already. And here's a couple of quick examples to show you.
Interesting. File format there. Yes, import is interesting. Okay, so
the point is that you don't have to do like a download workflow anymore.
So what happened to to memory?
To memory is to bring like an out of core tabular into memory, and these are kind of separate concepts now. Okay. I'm hooking up to remote data stores and giving account and kind of location information to some referenced thing as simply as possible in a way that's kind of canonicalized.
Okay. So can I ask this question? When does the authentication happen? So I type data connection object. When that evaluates, does it ask for authentication?
Nope, at the time that you actually try to retrieve data.
So like file format might ask for authentication, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Be nice if you could force it to ask for authentication, up front, rather than having to do a sort of random operation to get it to force authentication. See what I'm saying?
I can give that a try and see how that works. I thought it being lazy was kind of nice. But I
Well,
can
unless we
prototype that a
think
bit.
okay, here's a question. Is it the case that in the use of data connection object that 100% of the time you're going to need to authenticate?
No.
Why not?
There could be public data sets available.
Is that common?
Like this one.
What about if you authenticated once? Does it store your authentication keys in some keychain or something?
That's very much what I'm working on right now. So if it's an authentication, then it's going to give you a little dialogue, and the dialogue will give you prompts based on the type of connection.
Okay, that's nice. I'm just thinking about the workflow because I'm thinking about, oh, I prepared this for somebody. Oh, I didn't know it was going to ask you the authentication halfway through your computation.
Sure. Well, what's great about this is like typically in the company, you have a notebook and you're doing your computations and you have access to a data store. You pass it to a colleague who has their own authentication too. When they try to run it, a prompt comes up with a remember me checkbox, and the remember me knows based on where it was located to stay.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yes.
But my question is this. To me, it's a little bit obscure if if I'm sort of getting ready and I've got my password manager open and I know my authentication information, and then I have to do a random operation to force authentication. It's a little weird.
Sure, but also how do you know that you're going to remain authenticated through your entire session and whatnot?
That's a good point. How would you not remain authenticated if your Wi-Fi goes down and you reconnect?
Or your OAuth key expires or something if it's Dropbox.
Fair point. So all
authentication.
Hold on. All these functions like file format, do they take an authentication option? I mean, they don't now, but could they? They need to be given one, right?
You give it to data connection object.
No, that's not going to work because the data connection object already happened. You've already got your data connection object. And now, 2 hours later, I ask file format and I realize, oh my God, I should have given authentication there because it needs to authenticate.
I think what you want to do, so in that case, it's going to use the automatic behavior. So give you the dialogue thing. And then if you want to specify a new one.
Maybe wrap data connection around it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the direction I was going in is a data connection object can absorb another one with new properties.
I think
like if you wanted to re-download, and then you can add some specific authentication there. The other cool thing that I did was, so by default, if you do automatic, you get that dialogue. And if you save something and it wasn't quite what you wanted to save, a lot of things don't have a way to bring that dialogue back. So I added authentication goes to a string dialogue to get that prompt back.
That's a good idea. I thought we had something like that already for the authentication. I mean, to have that, did you add that in general for the authentication option?
So I did modify ref authentication, and that's the direction I think things should go in. I'm prototyping it here and showing how it can be kind of implemented.
I think it's a very good idea. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yep. So if you look at ref authentication, I already have a table for that, and it's also documented specifically in data connection object.
Fine.
It'll take secured. Yep. The system credential, etc.
Okay, listen, I need to go to a different meeting. I guess we'll be following up soon on this. Anything critical in the last 30 seconds?
No, I'm nearly ready to go with this.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks, guys. See you later.